my darlings. How are we all doing? It has been a hot minute since we spoke, hasn't it? But yeah, I'm back and it's good to talk to you again. It's been a while since we talked, hasn't it? And my goodness, what was it? Oh yeah, the whole Lionsgate portal, we touched on that, didn't we? And that, by the way, has caused some major conflict out there in Astroland. Some of you might have seen, actually. There's been some very, very irate opinions telling us what does and what does not belong within our realm. I think we'll decide for ourselves on that one, eh? And actually, I am seeing a few more astrologers, certainly on Instagram, kind of dig in a little bit to the whole fixed stars side of astrology, which is really good to see. I think it's such a fascinating area, isn't it? Like the whole sort of meaning that we ascribe to them. But I feel like we lost touch with them quite a long time ago, and we haven't really been able to resurrect them that well. I know Bernadette Brady, she's done a whole tranche of work on the fixed stars. And I did actually get a fixed stars report for myself, but really very overdramatic. Fixed stars report. I think every single star I had near my planets was going to ensure I drowned or lost an eye or died in war. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that the whole meaning of the fixed stars, we could do with upping the ante on that, couldn't we? We could do with some modern day relevance. So I personally welcome and rejoice discussion on our stars and what they mean for us in our modern day lives in the year of 2021 when everything went crazy. Anyway, we are now in Virgo season. Have been for a while though, let's be real. Certainly with the inner planets making their way into Virgo during Leo season. Leo felt very Virgo to me. And we are about to have a new moon, aren't we, at 14 Virgo. New moon, new start. We'll talk about that in a bit, I'm sure. But what I wanted to do today was take a look at Virgo season thus far and then have a little chat about the upcoming Mercury retrograde stint that we're all going to be subject to in the very near future. So yeah, here we are in September. I know for me these last 3 weeks have been crazy mental. My life has completely changed on every single level. Not that you'll necessarily hear for this, but why not share? Sharing is caring. I have left a whole lot behind and tentatively starting a brand new way of existence, really, with a very uncertain future, which feels weird as my whole life has been very sort of structured in the past. So as frightening as it can be to have this uncertain new road ahead of me, certainly with the old New World Order wanting us all penned up, it's also really exciting in a way to have a whole heap of unknown in front of me, I think. And yes, very possibly a foolish time to take huge risks. But if ever there were a time to be defiant and simply live, I believe it is now. So that's exactly what I am doing. More on that in a couple of months because it does relate to astrology. But let's get that settled in and bedded down, as we say in Project Land, and we can come back to that and revisit it. So here we are in Virgo season, and I believe we talked about radical good health a little while ago, didn't we? And how has Virgo season impacted us as the individuals who make up the collective? I think any talk of this, it would be incredibly remiss if we didn't factor in the background noise of the Saturn Uranus square that's dominating the whole year and will dominate into next year, as well, of course, as Capricorn being in those kind of later degree, Capricorn, as well as Pluto, of course, being in those later degrees of Capricorn, getting ready to get even more tense and anoretic-y. Yes, that is a word. So, Virgo, where shall we start with her? The more refined, internalized side of Mercury. We can say Gemini plays with the bullshit. Little bit of a gross visual for you there. Virgo bins it, yeah. She sorts the woods from the trees, for sure. And she's getting busy right now with, yeah, as we said, with that backdrop of the Saturn-Uranus square, the tension between the constriction of the known, the desired freedom, and unknown. And you might have noticed this. Well, of course you've noticed it, you know, you live in the world. And we are seeing this whole dynamic peep through the cracks. Just to give you some examples of our radical good health. Here recently, in the UK, we've had over 130 medical professionals. They've written an open letter to those people and committees who think they can rule us by a press conference, berating their handling of the situation the world has been plunged into. A really interesting read. I thoroughly recommend it, actually, over on Children's Health Defender, berating Klaus's friends, as they should, of their awareness and willful ignorance of alternative therapies, exaggerated threat, unethical behavioral tactics, obfuscation of science and data to lead a narrative, you know, including the myth of asymptomatic transmission, mass testing of asymptomatic people, which we now call cases. I personally remember good old incidental findings myself. Ignorance and yeah, I guess the over-reliance of modelling as opposed to real-time data, because of course it makes sense to use 10-year-old influenza code to make vital decisions on behalf of a nation. Well bloody done to each and one of those brave people, actually, risking a lot to speak out, I think, and so very Virgo. What do we really need? How do we really need to manage this situation? How can we really get to good health? And I think as well, another sad reflection or perhaps emergence of Pluto in Capricorn, this whole restriction of science. It's about time we remembered the ever-evolving nature of science and how it thoroughly needs to question itself to remain relevant. Karl Popper and his Black Swan, of course, taught us this, didn't he? Interestingly, over in Japan, they've been recommending ivermectin as a form of treatment, and I was really surprised actually when I saw in the media that apparently some people just think it's horse medication. It's been prescribed for humans for years. And if you want to know more about ivermectin, if you want a decent medical-based source, I would suggest you check out the Bird Group, for example. Strange, really, that only in 2021 it's dangerous when it's being routinely prescribed for people. Dangerous compared to what, I ask you? Although understandably it is a cheap drug, so it won't make certain individuals wealthy. It will, however, reduce fatality probability by 70%, according to meta-analysis of current data, which also suggests that I think it may prevent 4 out of 5 infections, pointing to it being a key tool in the kit of frontline workers. So I really hope to see more of this as a form of medical choice and indeed taxpayer savings in the very near future. You might want to check that out for yourself, by the way. See your own country's stance on ivermectin, and if you want that changed, Mercury might be helping you out with that as he hangs out in Libra for a long time, which is, of course, I think the main topic of discussion for today, isn't it? So yeah, I feel slowly but surely we're trickling through this advanced, progressive, real fine filtration of what's needed and what's not needed in the situation across the world. And I mean, you know, don't even get me started on places like America and Australia. I will literally cry at you. So you can say it. And know how people are planning, trying to navigate through this, and come on the truckies and the renegade astrologers quietly holding their own in the face of total adversity. It's difficult, isn't it, in a way? I think, you know, navigating, that's a word we like to use, isn't it? Navigating all of this 3D material world drama while trying to evolve as a little spiritual spark here on the planet. And I know discussion of the material, so to speak, Can be really hard for some people, can't it? Who would perhaps choose to look away. But I think we have to straddle these things, a foot in each and every camp, if you like. That, of course, is, true multidimensionality, isn't it? We like to bandy it around like it's a cool, pure love and light off with the fairies, but it's not. Multidimensional means you're here in a body, and this is all part of your existence. And we're hard pressed at the moment, without a doubt. It's difficult to balance various levels of awareness, that's for sure. A lot of that sentiment we see reflected in Uranus in Taurus, don't we? With these sort of tense times of embodiment and trauma. But equally, my God, what a time to be here, nonetheless. Anyway, back to astrology. I should probably put timestamps in, shouldn't I? So people know, is the political rant over? Yeah, okay. And the thing is, astrology is our human experience in the world. So, that does encompass political, collective and global situations. So I do hope you can forgive me on that. And if you need fluffy and insular, there's plenty of that out there as well. This is what we do here. And I know my little merry band who listen to me on a regular basis, you appreciate that. And thank you guys. I appreciate you too. So let's go on and devote some time to Mercury, shall we? My favourite little personal planet. He's finally slowing down and staying put in the sign of Libra. Flew through Virgo in 3 weeks in a sprinting kind of way. Clearly, Mercury has no time to berate himself at the moment. Or indeed to focus on himself. It would seem he is all about getting to Libra. Not, of course, to underplay his effects when he was in Virgo. Apologies to my Mercury and Virgo natives who may feel slighted by my choice of words there. So yeah, Mercury entered Libra on the 30th of August, and he won't exit now until the 6th of November. Pre-shade commenced today on the 7th at 10 degrees Libra. He'll go on to station retrograde at 25 degrees on the 28th. Then stations direct at 10 degrees on the 18th of October, and we can expect a post-shade period to take us up until the 3rd of November. And pre-shade's quite a useful time, really. It's that just easing you in gently. So make the most of this, pick up on it, have a feel into it, because I think it's going to be quite a powerful retrograde, really. Generally speaking, I guess, with Libra in the 7th house, we on a personal level, we can feel those themes of collaboration, of partnership, of power balance within relationships, how we relate to other people, our feelings, and of course a lot of that will be dictated by the way we relate to ourselves as well. And let's not forget that Libra is the cardinal air sign, isn't it? It initiates a journey, and you will of course see lots of people wax lyrical about the virtues of Libra. Its balance, its poise and its elegance. But just as with Aries and its journey for initiation and action, Cancer, its initiation of emotional integration, we really need to focus on the initiation aspect, i.e. all of our cardinal signs can be as messy as you like. They start the journey, they break the ground in the hope of attainment. For many, not all of course, this is a massive process. So with Libra, we initiate the search for balance, I guess would be best placed to say. And this will naturally encompass walking through extremes with our friend Libra, and always through the eyes of or an awareness of the other, and the difficulties in balancing that can be immense. We can see here perhaps the negative connotations of that almost, I don't know, Virgo and Capricorn mix when they hook up. That kind of role casting into subservience and dominance. And we've all probably played both sides of this coin throughout our lifetimes, right? There's no blame here. It's simply human nature playing itself out. But Libra can constantly give to others, constantly fuel that interaction with the other. and forget their own needs, forget to fuel themselves, which can make them at the behest of the relationship to get its needs met. The needs which, if it just took some time away to consider itself and its own autonomy, it took a lesson from its polarity in Aries, it could meet its own needs and then, come to a more balanced consideration of the other. The trick to balancing Libra energy is really to give in accordance with what people need. And sometimes that can even mean giving nothing at all, which is really hard for a dominant Libran focus if someone has that in their chart, I think. But sometimes not giving can be just as powerful, because by giving we can be keeping people in a state that perhaps they need to be able to evolve out of. I think David Green actually first pointed out with the Libra archetype that actually quite often Libran energy will refuse to engage in discussion. Like, no, I'm just not taking part in that, moving on. Refuse to be pulled in, if you like. And that to me actually is a really high expression of Libra, in a way, just to know when to engage and when to not. And again, that really relates to Aries in a way. I think that kind of synthesis of the 1-7. We need to be able to put ourselves first at times, or we live through others, don't we? We don't have that autonomy of experience that we all need. So it is, the balancing of the self and the other, as we seek a harmony and equality between both parties. And naturally with transits, that's kind of cast a net over us, really, globally, and we can be looking across our local community, across our own countries, across the world, to see what are these power balances at play at the moment. Who do they serve? How well do they serve everybody? Are all needs being met accordingly? And I would say a resounding no to that, which can be really quite disheartening. However, I'm a firm believer, call me ever the optimist, but I'm a firm believer that once we have that awareness, once we can actually bring ourselves to focus on the reality of a situation, that's the sweet spot. As much as it hurts, as much as it fucks us off, if we can see a situation for what it is, that's when we can begin to change it. And so with Libra, the external face of Venus as she relates to the other, we will be kind of looking at these dynamics of extremity, finding our way through collaboration and cooperation, consideration of others. And just a quick point, speaking not necessarily globally, but certainly generationally, this transit will highlight a lot for Gen X, actually. Looking at the transits, I think we've mentioned, I personally think we can expect to see a lot through the law courts, a lot of revisiting legalities, legal precedences to serve a better power balance. But when we look generationally, this transit's going to really hit Gen X, the Pluto in Libra generation. When we have Mercury conjunct Pluto, we are able to give voice to the subconscious, that part of our soul that can quite often be hidden. Mercury can come and go as it pleases through the underworld, can't he? As deliciously mutable as he is, and he can converse with Pluto in a way that really no other inner planet can. Of course, every bloody year he passes through Libra, but this year, given current events, I think it will activate in a way a whole host of us. So it'll be interesting for me, at least, to see who's speaking out on the world stage, who leads movements under the energy of Mercury in Libra this year. There's a whole group of people who have that kind of subconscious soul urge that they've carried for lifetimes, where they seek balance, they seek harmony, and they seek a level playing field. They're used to extremes. It's what their soul's made of. Can be quite a difficult transit though when we have Mercury conjunct our Pluto. It can almost be a sort of dark night of the soul in a way, as your mental faculties are so acutely aware of the subconscious. It's not really something that we are necessarily on the daily, most of us. I know we like to think that we are, don't we, when we're all spiritual and that, we like to think that we know our soul inside out, we know our subconscious inside out. But we don't. Of course we don't. It's vast. It's really vast. So when you have that kind of mercurial mental gaze, as it were, you know, staring into the abyss in a way, it can be quite powerful, but it can also be really transformational. That mix of thought form and subconscious could be really powerful. Actually, a really powerful level up if we are brave enough to stare it in the face. So it takes bravery, I think, to really feel into that transit and get something out of it without just crying into the void of, of your existence at the moment. It certainly with Libra, it takes bravery to walk through extremes and acknowledge power balances and where we've played into two stories and situations, and do we want that to continue or do we want to change tack? So it's going to be a very, very interesting transit indeed. So there we go. Don't forget to have a look at your chart, of course. If you want to head over to the website, you can always pull off a chart there. I've got that geared up to how I would normally assess a chart in terms of the house system and orbs and things. So if you want to see it from my point of view, says Pluto in Libra, you can go over there and take a look if you want. But I always recommend, like, even if you're not hella into astrology like most of us are, always check out which of your houses retrogrades are going to be passing through and just observe it, you know. As much as I've literally waffled on about this particular transit, how it will be intense, how it will be powerful for the individual and for the collective, it's still really important to kind of keep that, I don't know, should we say Aquarian objectivity? Just to always have that kind of one eye observing and being aware of the drama, allowing it to pass through you, of course, but always just remembering that there is a part of you that you maybe don't see and feel every day, but it's still there, and you are connected to something way more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Always remember that as you journey through your life as a human. So after that little lot, shall we get on and have a little look at the transits for the month? And before we go into the old dates for your diary, just a kind of general observation from me, really, without going into the mundane transits too much at this point in time. There is a lot of energy and movement. I know quite often when we go through retrograde periods, and you know, let's not forget, we've still got Pluto, Uranus, Jupiter and Saturn all retrograde. You know, people say we get a general kind of slowing down of things, don't we? And I wouldn't necessarily say slowing down, but it is a different feel. However, this month for sure, there is a lot of energy banging about. We've got lots of squares and lots of trines with our personal, barrier and our transpersonal planets. Very, very generally speaking, when we have, you know, this much going on in so many areas of our lives, we will get that squeeze for action, that squeeze to need to do something, that really intense drive and focus. And conversely, with a trine, we have this unleashing of energy with trines, and quite often trines get a really good reputation and squares get a really bad reputation. Our trines are beneficial, blah blah blah. Not so much actually all the time, I would say. Some of my worst transits have been trines, certainly with, you know, the likes of Saturn trine Pluto, for example. But what we can say without a doubt with our trines is that they're an unstoppable force. They are like the tap on full blast, you know, this unstoppable, almost unbridled energy. So I think generally speaking, we're going to feel that need to act, and then we'll ride that wave of real, you know, intense flow. So it's going to be a busy old month, guys. We have got a couple of oppositions in the mix there, I think, with Neptune at some point. So, you know, that will kind of temper things a little bit. But really super busy month on the mundane transits aspect. I will try my damnedest to keep up with these on Instagram, but there's so much and it's so intense that I'm aware that like if I posted every single individual aspect, it's just complete informational overload. And I think what I like to do as well, it could be the influence of retrograde, who knows? But what I like to do as well is to kind of look back and reflect on what we've been through and how we've felt things. That feels really useful to me. I know quite a lot of people watch or listen to astrologers because they want the predictions, the what's going to happen, when's that going to happen, what's going to go on there. And I really shy away from very, very specific predictions, and there are some great astrologers out there who do it and do it in style and bloody good on them. And I have consulted my friends actually, like I said, like, look, is this a good time to do this? Is this blah blah blah? So I have done things like that. But as a rule, whenever I post, like my intention, my offering to you, as it were, is to make you aware of the energies you are wading through in your human existence. And when you have that awareness, if you can couple that with the awareness of your own frequency, you can then use that as a framework to navigate your life, and just have that framework for understanding. That's what I try to do. I don't try to dictate with them, so this is definitely going to happen then because this is there. I think that's bullshit on a lot of levels. So yeah, what I like to do is encourage you to feel into the planetary energies, feel into your own chart, and use that to navigate and empower yourself, to kind of ride the waves, if you like. And I just think it's a really, really great way to take your power back, because when we focus our intention, we can move mountains. Your will, your divine will, and your ability to create as a human being is so much more powerful than you will ever realize. Massive ramble. So I'll finally get on with it now, shall I? Right, let's take a look, shall we? So let's take a look at our lunations, because right now, actually, we're under the influence of the new moon, aren't we? I think she's just moved away, but we had our new moon at 14 Virgo on the 7th. The new moon, new start. What are we bringing in over the next 6 months? The Virgo moon is really that kind of feminine, emotionally refining principle, that passive duality. Of course, conjunct the sun, as all of our new moons are, and it was trine Uranus as well, so it was getting that really nice hit of the embodied higher mind, quite revelatory in a way. We also had at exactly the same time the Mars trine Pluto. So, you know, generally speaking, that kind of subconscious speaking to the conscious dynamic, everything in tune, everything in unison, and really kind of deep ass Virgo new moon. And I see this as pretty transformational, actually. This kind of soulful stirring, I think. Whatever's not working, get rid of it, you know, strip it back, refine it. Give yourself that blank canvas again to focus on what you really want. The energy's all there for you. So just pay attention. Like, sounded like a school teacher there, didn't I? Pay attention. So pay attention, please, to whatever messages you're getting at the moment. You know, where are you being drawn? What are you being shown? And also what I find with Uranian messages, they'll keep repeating, not necessarily, you know, the same thing, but maybe a theme. I think, was it Jeff Wolf that said 3 times Uranian messages we get. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled, see what's coming in for you. The degree attached to this one was really quite interesting as well, wasn't it? It was a good-looking woman holds 2 doves against her chest and watches 2 adolescents embracing one another in what seems to be a temple of love. Oh, it's nice, isn't it? And we've also got our Venus and Jupiter trine along with this new moon, haven't we? You know, we're never really alone. Whether it's our relationship to nature, whether it's our relationship with each other in the Temple of Love, Temple of Venus, very appropriate for all this Libra energy kicking off. And again, balance, of course, balance in our relationships. So yeah, a very on point new moon, I think. We've also got our first quarter coming up on the 13th of September at 21 Sagittarius, and this will actually be part of a T-square as the Sun opposes Neptune. T-squares are quite interesting, really. The advice we give can change from astrologer to astrologer a lot of the time, and actually for me, like transit to transit, really. A lot of people will promote the missing leg theory. If we think of the four placements of the chart, one of them is empty when we think of a grand cross, for example. So with this particular T-square, we have Sun in Virgo, we have Moon in Sagittarius, and we have Neptune in Pisces. So it's a mutable T-square. And Gemini would be the empty leg in this case. And mutable T-squares are a bit tricky to utilize, because the kind of advice I tend to give is, or I prefer to see, shall we say, is the middle planet, or the planet receiving the squares, as acting as the hammer. So it utilizes the energy of the opposition. It kind of gives it a voice as opposed to it kind of being on hold. So I guess it depends on whether or not you want to use a transit or run away from it. Mutable T-squares are really quite tricky. It can almost feel like you're hammering fog or hammering water, but I still think it's pertinent for us. The moon here is our focus for sure. You know, our internal workings are all focused on our known truths, like our cosmological feelings, finding comfort in a framework for life, if you like, which I think is really helpful, because, you know, with the Sun Neptune opposition, this can be really quite woolly and really quite foggy, to say the least. So focusing on what we inherently know to be true and taking comfort from that in a difficult T-square is quite a good idea, I think. Our full moon this month is in the realm of Neptune, 28 Pisces on the 21st. And we've also got a Jupiter trine Mercury at the same time. So nice, I like this. A magnanimous conversation with our fellow man under a watery humanitarian full moon in Pisces. It's rather nice, isn't it? And lastly, our third quarter in Cancer. It's 6 degrees. This is a tricky one. I'm not going to bullshit you. It's square a Sun Mars conjunction and in conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. Feels crunchy, doesn't it, a little bit? And quite a challenging get up, which can make it difficult to release what we need to in terms of our lunar cycles. When we're stressed, we all clench up, don't we? Your bum clenches up. We need to feel safe, you know, to release, to ground, and express our emotions, which is exactly what Cancer needs. To be able to integrate it. We've also got a Pluto retrograde trining a Mercury retrograde as well. So are we going to be revisiting things from our past that cause us distress? Potentially so. However, you know, if we look at the inconjunct associated with this third quarter, what we're looking at here is adjustment and integration. Quite often inconjuncts can lead to learning through crisis. They don't need to, if we can just stop and assess where do we need to make that adjustment to enable us to safely express our needs and let go of what we need to let go of without fear. I think that's probably the key to this third quarter, but yeah, certainly quite challenging. And so on to our ingresses. On the 10th of September, Venus moves into Scorpio. That will be in 3 days' time. On the 15th of September, Mars moves himself into Libra, and on the 22nd of September, we officially commence Libra season with the Sun's ingress into the same sign. And phew, there we go, guys. We did it. Well done. We got there. Probably one of the longest videos we've done ever, to be honest with you. But I did have to make up for lost time. We've gone a couple of weeks without talking, and I don't like that. So, I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to book a reading, or if you want to learn with me, although that's going to be a little bit limited in the near future, get in touch. But I'll always prioritize a reading. If you need an emergency reading as well, get in touch. You can go through the website, or you can contact me directly. Obviously check out Instagram, which is where we tend to hang out. And I just, as usual, send you all my love, my darlings. Stay well, stay cool, look after yourselves. Don't let the bastards grind you down. They don't win in the end. That's all you got to remember. So peace out, guys, and we will talk really, really soon. Take care.